What is up, sports fans? Welcome back to another episode of Pez's Picks. Before we get started and we introduce ourselves, if you're watching on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe to the channel. We do appreciate it. So you get all the latest sports news, whether it's breakdowns of NFL draft players or whether it's the Pez's Picks podcast right here. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, all we ask is give us a 5-star rating, subscribe. We do appreciate it. Leave a good comment. It all helps in getting more people, more money, based on Pez's picks. He's been red hot in the NBA playoffs. I'm Jeff Hartman, but he's the man with the picks. Pez, what's up?
Jeff, we're living the dream this year. We're hot. I mean, since I started working with you, things have been good, Jeff. I'm never going to be able to break up with you. We're going to have to ride this out. They're going to ban us, these casinos.
Yeah, I mean, ever since we had that one college football weekend where you went like 0-4, and I said, we can't do this. Like, we can't have a gambling podcast and have it 0-4. Since then, you've always been on the right side of the 500. But let's start with an 0-4 event that we had. But people need to realize, like, this is a really difficult thing to bet on. That was the Kentucky Derby was last weekend. We put in a lot of plays. If you follow on Instagram at Pez's Picks, Pez was giving you all the insight, whether it's which lane the horse was starting in, all that stuff. Pez, what was your takeaway from the Derby?
Jeff, I talked about some guys today. I was a little bored of the Derby. It was a good finish. We had a little controversy. We had a jockey hitting another horse, and there might have been a need for a look at that, but it didn't happen. I mean, probably just a little bumping. As Robert Duvall said in Days of Thunder, maybe the greatest NASCAR movie ever made, Jeff, rubbin's racing. So at the end of the day, I'm not impressed with any of those horses. I don't think Mystic Dan is an amazing horse. I don't think he's running the Preakness. I think it's been announced already. None of our horses won. And, this is the Kentucky Derby, Jeff, where you got 21 horses, sometimes 22, 23. Generally, you're going to have a 1 through 10 grouping kind of come in, or you're going to have the outside horses, an 11 through, above. And we had those 1 through 10 horses run a good race, and they should. They got the inside track, and they broke out. And Sierra Leone came close to being a favorite to kind of finish, but I thought overall the horses were not very impressive. So maybe in the Preakness somebody pops out. Sometimes you get some new horses jumping in, and something to look for. We were talking before we came on there. Betting on horses is like betting a parlay. We're looking for a jackpot. We're not looking to put thousands of dollars there unless you got that kind of money, Jeff, which is nice. I mean, I have some friends in gambling I talk with and help out. I'm not that guy, Jeff. I know I play the odds here, and we let the data do the talking. Horse betting is probably a bad bet, but it's fun. If you hit the right jackpot, the right combination, you can invest $12 and maybe hit for 500. So that didn't happen for us. None of our horses even came close, Jeff. And I've had a lot of days leaving the track where that's the case. I mean, that's why we talk to people about parlays and about, you're reducing your chances of winning. You're giving yourself less of an advantage. And, I have friends that go to the horse track. They don't bet, Jeff. They just drink. And these are gamblers. They've learned their lesson. Then I have other guys that go to the track so much, they might know the jockey. They might know the guy that's giving them the injection. So whatever it may be, I love it. The Preakness is going to be fun, faster race, shorter track, more debauchery there, Jeff. There's no dressing up at the Preakness. It is dressing down. Anybody going to the Preakness, my first tip is going to be careful going into the porta pots or spotted johnnies, whatever you call them, wherever you're at around the country. Notorious, some jokesters or whatever word you want to call them, Jeff. I don't like these kind of people, but they tip over porta pots when people are in them. It's a pretty horrible thing. I've seen some fights down there. So tread lightly at the Preakness. That's, it's more of the Wild West than the Kentucky Derby or the Belmont. The Belmont's probably the overall classiest. It's the least attended, and they don't have an infield, so it's a little bit of a higher brow crowd there maybe at the Belmont. It's definitely more than the Preakness.
We'll be talking about the other races of the Triple Crown as they approach, but let's talk about an area of expertise for you recently, and that is the NBA playoffs. The NBA playoffs, we did not really go all in basketball until football was done. We got on the moving train that is NCAA basketball. It's really tough to get on that train, but we figured it out quickly. You've also gotten on this moving train quickly, 17-8 over the course of the NBA playoffs. And you might be listening to this podcast saying, well, Jeff, what are you talking about? We haven't heard 25 picks. Like, no, you got to go find Pez's picks on Instagram and on Twitter. He gives you the daily picks, more picks than what we can give you here on this once a week podcast. 17-8, Pez. You should be proud of that. What's your thoughts on so far the NBA playoffs so far from a global perspective?
Jeff, we're pounding our chest over here at Pez's Picks, and we're in the Jersey Shore area this week, so it's a fun time. We got summer coming. We've been sticking to our algorithm, Jeff, and just like football, we've got 5, sometimes 6 things that we kind of look at and compare. And I was telling some colleagues of mine, when there's 5 out of 6 of those boxes checked, we're jumping all over that. I mean, 6 out of 6, that happens once in a while. You kind of get nervous when that happens. It's too good to be true. 4 out of 6, maybe we'll look at it, but anything under that, we're not putting that play out. And injuries are something that we look for, how a team does on the road, how they do before or after losses, and a lot of different things, defense, offense. And the data's been working out for us. I told some colleagues, we're not trying to pick the magic winner in every game. We're not just looking at it and saying, hey, I'm picking that one or this one. We're investing our money through data and through the algorithm, where you're not going to hit everyone. I mean, I don't know anybody that's hitting 25 out of 25 NBA plays, but if you're hitting above 50%, that's very acceptable in gambling. Anything over that gets better with each percentage. So we're happy with it, and we're sticking with it. It gets harder as the playoffs go on. I mean, this round, much harder than the first round. Everybody's good. I mean, probably 75% of these teams could win the championship, and we wouldn't be overly shocked by it, especially on the West Coast. So it's tough. In days that we don't check the boxes, we won't be putting plays out. We'll be explaining that.
Yeah, and that's important to know. We've had some people on Instagram that have commented when you have a post that says, look, whether it's injuries, whether it's you just don't have a good feel for the game, the algorithm's not working our way in terms of checking the boxes that we want to check. And they're like, what do you mean no pick? Well, look, we care about you, the consumer. We care about where you're putting your money. We're trying to give you winners. We're not just trying to put out picks to give you picks. So in that regard, kudos to you for not just randomly throwing out random picks. You're only going to take the games that you truly believe in. I think that's important.
Well, thank you, Jeff. And, this weekend, Minnesota, Denver, I mean, probably the 2 best teams. Well, if Denver was healthy. And Jamal Murray, one of their main guys, he averages over 20. When you put together his points, rebounds, and assists, the guy comes in 30, 35 points a game that he's responsible for. So he's got a bad calf, which for an NBA player, I mean, that's like losing your hand as a quarterback. And he showed his frustration on game 2 this week, throwing the towel, and he threw an ice pack or a heating pack on the court, and he hasn't been there. And without him, we talked about it in game 2. We didn't put a play out because that line to me was completely off. My sources were saying Jamal Murray was still not 100%. They were laying 5 or 4.5, I think. I thought they should be getting points. And when we look at it, we have some sort of discrepancy there. We take that game off the board, Jeff. It's just not worth it. As a gambler, in my heart, I said we should be taking Minnesota. But when we punch the data with Jamal Murray in the starting lineup, Denver should have been winning that game. So it's kind of tough to put that in and say, all right, well, how much can you take off? How bad's the injury? And is he going to be 100%? And we're running into a little bit of that with Indiana. We're running into a little bit of that with a lot of teams, and that's why it's gambling, Jeff. That's why it's not winning. It's just like fishing and catching. I mean, this is why it's fun. If it was easy, we'd all be living in Vegas if it was easy.
Yeah, we're living high on the hog too.
That's it. That's it.
So what about the upcoming NBA slate? You mentioned the games this weekend. It does get more challenging as every round goes in the NBA playoffs. What are your thoughts about the upcoming series and games coming up?
Well, Jeff, I think last night we had our 2 easiest ones we're going to have for a while. We had game 1s. We had Cleveland at Boston. Cleveland winning that game 7 and kind of stealing a Pez's pick winner over the weekend against Sunday, Jeff. I still can't believe Orlando blew that game. They were up 22 in the first quarter. I learned a lot about Cleveland, though. And Cleveland has a veteran team. They have a great coach. And that team works hard. We took Boston last night in the first quarter. And we talked about they were blowing them out. Then it was a tight game, but Boston pulled ahead in the first quarter. We got the win. Cleveland fought in that game till about the fourth quarter, which they were down 10-15 the entire game. So, Cleveland, I don't think is completely out of it. Boston has superior talent, and I think Boston is the best coach in the league. Boston's the only pro team that is running a college offense, Jeff. They throw that ball around like they've been training together for a decade. They run plays and they are control the ball. They don't turn it over. That's a tough team. We're on the West Coast, so I think it's a little more athletic based. You got bigger guys that are running and gunning. So Cleveland, nice win. Oklahoma City came in for us last night. That was an easy one. They just blew Dallas's doors off from pretty early on. That's another team that we're looking at with the big guy in Dallas. I think last night Doncic put up 19. He was 6 for 19 from the floor. So the guy's got a knee injury. I think he's one of the best guards in the last 20 years. But when you're not 100% in that NBA, it is so easy to spot. And I played a lot of basketball growing up, Jeff. When somebody was limping, you took it to the hole every time. You knew they weren't 100%. So this guy, he's kind of limping out there. And, we're not talking about a superior athlete. Doncic is not beating anybody with his speed, but just a half a step in that league, and you're toast. And it wore on as the game went on with him. And I wonder about that going forward. And it's something we're going to have to really, do our homework with and get as much info as we can when we're picking these games coming up.
And remember, I keep on pumping it up. You got to check us out on Instagram at Pez's Picks. The feed is really growing quickly, almost to 700 followers, and we started it right before the NBA playoffs started. People are getting winners, and they're appreciating it. You got to check us out there, and you can also check us out on Twitter and X at Pez's Picks. I think we're also going to be starting up a TikTok account. I'm not sure if that's official yet or not. Do you have any word on that?
I think there's some vids floating around out there, Jeff. I'm not a big TikToker, but I don't know if we're putting his name out yet. But we have a new employee, Coach KT Smith, and I call him Darren. I don't know if you remember Darren from Seinfeld. He was Kramer's intern. So
yes,
Darren has been doing a great job. If he wants to get his real name out there later on, we'll let him. But shout out to Darren. The guy's been killing it, and everybody likes a winner, Jeff. And luckily we're hot. Coach KT Smith at the call sheet, big Pittsburgh Steelers guy, as we know, has said that if we go into a cold patch, that Coach KT Smith might donate his paycheck to losers that take Pez's Picks, Jeff. So I don't know, something you can talk about with him on his show this week. Guy's very generous, very supportive of the show. So
that is nice. Good for him. All right, so the NBA picks will be coming fast and furious, and we'll have you covered there on those different channels. Let's talk about some picks, though, this week. We do have some picks for the Wells Fargo. We'll talk about that in a second. That's the PGA Tour event leading up to the second major. But we want to talk some soccer, some international soccer. You have some plays coming up. But first, let's explain this tournament and what's going on for people like myself who have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, this summer we're going to have the European Championships. It's a fun thing to bet, Jeff. You have games in the morning, you have them all day because Europe's in that different part of the world and all the things spinning. So as a gambler in the summer, very little going on. You got baseball. You got maybe a little WNBA if you want to put that in. But the Euros is fun. Some people say it's a better tournament than even the World Cup. Europe has such great soccer in all these different countries. So these guys, there's life and death on the Euros. So this will be a fun tournament to watch. How we're doing our homework and the plays we'll put out today. The English Premier League, where probably it's not even an argument anymore, has become the premier soccer league in the world, with Messi coming to America especially. So the best players play in England. It's called the Premier League, from all over the world, and they're coming into the last 2 weeks here, Jeff. And I was talking with you a little bit earlier. There's 20 teams in the Premier League. I believe there's a dozen divisions overall in England, but 20 teams in the Premier League where billions of dollars in salary. It's unbelievable the amount of money these guys make, hundreds of millions a year, where, a $50 million contract's a big deal, but 50 million, that's not even really talked about a lot in Europe, Jeff. So Premier League, you have 20 teams. They each play each other twice, home and away. So you end up playing 38 games. And the team that has the most points wins the Premier League. So points being 3 for a win and 1 for a draw, and then you get 0 for a loss. So in the Premier League, winning it obviously is a very historic thing. The top 4 Premier League teams make next year's top 5 usually biggest European tournaments, where we've got the Champions League and the Euro Cup. So there's a lot going on at the top. At the bottom of the Premier League, they call it the table, Jeff, the standings in America. So the standings, we won't go too European on the show. the bottom 3 teams get kicked out of the league every year.
Wow.
So the last 2 weeks to me is one of the greatest sporting events I watch every year. The worst teams in the Premier League, we're talking teams with maybe 3-4 wins, they're playing for their life. Where if you get kicked out of this Premier League, you're not on TV anymore. Salaries get cut. I mean, God knows how much. Sometimes they get cut off the team. Sometimes the team folds. So it's a shocking blow to the team, the town, everybody's life involved. And that's what we're looking at this week, the top and the bottom. And it's awesome. I wish the NBA did this. I wish the NFL did this. You would see a lot more competitive games towards the end of the year.
That's interesting. They get kicked out of the league. That's almost life or death for some people. That's pretty funny. Think about it.
They call it relegation. So, and then the top 4 teams in the lower division have a little mini tournament, and the top 3 get in. So it's or I think the number 1 team gets in automatically, and then there's 4 teams battle for 3 spots. I mean, it's pretty awesome, Jeff. And they kill each other for these things over there.
Yeah,
there's stabbings, and they don't sell alcohol at the games in England anymore. That's how bad things were getting. So.
That's almost like kicking the Carolina Panthers and the Washington Commanders out of the NFL.
I mean, I bet you they would have played a little bit harder, right? I mean, you're gone. It'd be like them dropping to the XFL, Jeff.
Move them to the Canadian League,
the CBA and the NBA. I mean, who knows? But so it's a really, really amazing thing, and even the 20th teams, the bottom tend to have the stars from the top teams that got a little bit too old. So you might have a guy that was one of the greatest players in the world 5 years ago. So they have pride. They have a style of play, and it's fantastic. No commercials. I encourage anybody. English League Soccer, Saturday, Sunday mornings, pre-NFL especially, gets the juices going. It's an amazing sport.
So what are our plays this weekend in those games?
So we've got 2, Jeff, and this is why we don't talk, soccer betting a lot on Pez's picks. You could argue it's a bad bet, Jeff. I mean, when you bet soccer, you're betting a team to win. So if they lose or tie, and tying in soccer is worth a point. So it's something that teams actually try to do. So you lose those bets. So you're betting 1 out of 3 options, unless you take a money line, which generally means you're betting on a big long shot, or you're going to lay $100 and lose $600 maybe. Or at times you can find good value in what we call a goal line. So you can bet a favorite who maybe is giving up a goal to 2 goals maybe, where they have to win 3-0 to win or 4-1 to win. Or you can get in the situation we're looking at in this first game, Jeff. We're going to take Nottingham Forest at home against Chelsea. Nottingham is getting a half a goal. So that means if they win or tie, then we win that bet. So we're basically getting 2 bets for the price of 1. We're paying a little bit extra juice, Jeff, or a little bit extra vig, $130 to win $100. So $65 to win $50. But I think that's a pretty good deal when you're getting 2 bets. And the reason that we're taking this team, Jeff, I love the coach, real hardworking, tough-nosed ex-player. I remember watching him in the early 2000s and 90s. Nottingham Forest currently is sitting at spot number 17. They have 29 points with 2 games to go. There's a team below them named Luton Town, Jeff, which is weird, 26 points. And then we have another team named Burnley with 24 points. The bottom team, Sheffield United, they're done. They're out of it. They only have 14 points. They've already packed their bags. So we've got 3 teams fighting for 1 spot. Nottingham Forest lost, I believe it was 3 points a couple weeks ago for some violations, which they do, which I also find awesome. So they were pretty safe. They got dropped down. Could end the career, the life of some of these guys. I think this is a great situation for them. Chelsea's, a decent team, but they've gone through some coaching problems. And I think Nottingham Forest could actually win this game, and it wouldn't be too surprising. They did beat Chelsea earlier in the year, 1-0. That bodes well. Their coach is a hard ass. He kind of reminds me of like one of those like linebacker type, like the Detroit Lions coach, Jeff. This guy's a player. He's not out there messing around. He's not, he's an ugly guy, Jeff. I'll just say that. He's a tough guy. He's not out there, wearing his $10,000 Armani suits. He's out there to kick some ass and win. So
the Dan Campbell guy.
He is a Dan Campbell guy. I love him. So that's our first play.
Okay.
We're betting the bottom of the table there, and they're going to see desperation. That game, Jeff, is Saturday, 12:30 our time, and it's on NBC. So some of these games, you need some Peacock and other stuff. But 12:30 NBC, Nottingham Forest hosting Chelsea. Going to be a fun one. We're going to go to the other side. We're going to take Newcastle, who currently right now is in a – so the top 4 teams that finish in the Premier League are going to get into the Champions League. And that is that's the professional team tournament in the world, Jeff. And now they only do it in Europe, but they pride themselves on having the top European team. So it's beyond a moneymaker. It's like the Super Bowl. It'll be a tournament of the greatest football teams in the world, fighting for the Super Bowl and Super Bowl. So top 4 make it, sometimes top 5. Newcastle right now is in the 6th position. They're only about a game, 4 points back. So it's possible for them to get into this all-important top 5 spot, a game that they should win. Now, in this situation, Jeff, we're not going to take the goal line. To take Nottingham in this game, we'd have to be laying a goal and a half. So that means we got to win 2-0 or 3-1. I hate betting teams have to score 2 goals, especially in soccer, Jeff. Barely anything happens. You can watch that screen for 110 minutes and nobody scores. So we're going to take the money line, which I think is a pretty good deal. Now, we're giving up money. It's minus 180. So the people that aren't big gamblers out there, that means you bet 180 to win 100. You're going to bet 90 to win 50, 45 to win 25. So you're giving up a lot of money in terms of odds because it's likelihood that Newcastle wins, but that doesn't always mean it's going to happen, Jeff, especially when you're beating a team with 3 names, Brighton, Hove, Albion. Pretty awesome name, Jeff. I mean, that's as good as it gets. I don't even know what the heck that means, but that's fantastic. They've got a nice bird on their jersey. It's a classy team, Jeff, but they stink. So I think Newcastle should pull it out. They make a good beer in Newcastle. They've got a great name for their stadium too, Jeff. St. James Park. I mean, I grew up with Vet Stadium. That's pretty cool. St. James Park, very classic, very Beatles. Very, very, very old team and a team with a lot of pride and a team coming in hot. They've won 4 out of 5. So Newcastle laying the 180. I'm not saying lay 180, but you're going to be laying that type of odds, almost 2-1. I mean, a little bit less than that. So $20 maybe would be a fun bet, Jeff. I mean, you're going to win 8 then, or, something along the lines, a little more affordable. Let's not bet the house on this one. Betting soccer is like betting a parlay or betting on horse betting, Jeff. It's fun, but the data there and the risk there is greater. Anytime you're making a bet where we're taking Newcastle, technically we have a 33% chance of winning, 33.3%. We want to be math nerds because if it's a tie or the other team wins, we lose. So I'm not saying we're getting good odds, but it's fun. And I think if you do it logically, there is a data-driven way to kind of invest money in Premier League, especially the end of the year.
This whole tournament sounds like the Wild West. Like 3 points for winning, 1 point for a draw. They're having infractions and taking points away. What the hell is Roger Goodell leading this thing or something? He would love to be able to take points away.
the drama in this, there's times where coaches get kicked out of teams where teams could get relegated completely. Manchester City was discussed to being kicked out of the Premier League forever, is the number of violations that they have. Manchester City has this great technique. They pay guys, and then they pay them to be coaching counselors for a team, I don't know, as Tajikistan or something, and they might give them $5 million. So they're juicing contracts without it going on their books, and this is bad stuff, Jeff. I mean, it's a fight to the death, and they do kill each other over this stuff over there. NFL, we're way more civilized here, Jeff. We don't kill each other over it. I mean, usually.
That's right. Yeah, usually. Hey, the Wells Fargo, I mentioned that on the PGA Tour, something I actually know about. They're got a big tournament, Quail Hollow. This is the run-up to the second major of the year, the PGA Championship. The odds are out. No Scotty Scheffler, no Ludwig Oberg. Scotty Scheffler is awaiting the birth of his first child. I think that could be any day now. I'm sure that he's probably telling those doctors, look, hey, doc, this baby's coming this week because I've got a major next week, so you got to figure it out. So let's pump up the Pitocin, if you know what I mean. And then you have Oberg, who's out with a knee injury. That changes the whole dynamic of this tournament and the odds-on favorite. Rory McIlroy is the odds-on favorite to win. I'm not touching that guy with a 20-foot pole. What exactly are you thinking for the Wells Fargo this weekend?
I mean, a couple things, Jeff. I think golf right now is in a tough situation. The LIV people are living the dream, and the PGA guys are we're down to guys that never played at this level, and they're trying to make a name for himself. We talked about Jake Knapp before we came on the air. Guy won a tournament and didn't seem to have the juice on the Sunday.
Had a top 10 finish last week, though. Top 10, not bad.
Great golfer, and I think the future of the PGA, but they're being thrusted into these positions now. Jake Knapp, we shouldn't be talking about winning the Wells Fargo or the PGA, but he could. I wouldn't be shocked. I read a great article. There's a caddy, can't think of his name right now, just picked up Aberg's bag. Was on Ricky Fowler's bag when he was young. Legendary guy. I can't think of his name. Tough guy. He said the key to be a good golfer is managing their time. Said every one of these guys hits it almost the same. I mean, of course, you get a couple standouts, but he said the reason Scotty Scheffler, aside from his ball striking, which he talked about being mental, he said the guy has the greatest off-course life and manages it properly. He doesn't do all the commercials, all the endorsement, showings and showing up. He's a pretty simple guy, drinks a couple, Miller Lights or something, I think, and he's a religious guy. So his life is simple, and you can tell when he's out there. I mean, he's got no stress, and that guy never blows up. And you've mentioned Rory, who I'm going to say this week, Jeff, is my pick. The thing I hate, if I bet Rory, and I see on day one, he misses a 3-footer and he does that guy, every missed shot, I tell my wife, it's called negative celebrating. It's a death trap to competing. Scotty Scheffler misses a shot. He just walks off, didn't say a word, doesn't get pissed off. I mean, every once in a while, but every shot you get Rory McIlroy living and dying. Having said that, he won last week in that kind of fraud partner tournament with Shane Lowry. Played fantastic. Now, I talked to a golf, the fifth string punter guy from James Madison. He thinks Rory played great because it was fun, Rory. He was out there with a buddy, less stress. It's either that, or as you know, Jeff, when Rory his game is in position to win, he wins in bunches. I mean, the guy should win every week. We talk about that a lot. Hits it, drives it better than maybe everybody alive. When that putter's rolling, forget about it. So I'm on the side that Rory might be hot, and he could win this week. I'm going to be shocked if he wins next week. We talked about it a lot. I'm never shocked when Rory McIlroy wins. Nobody hits it like that guy. Nobody drives it like him. And, can he get his wedges right and his putter? I think so. And I think good odds, plus 650 this week to win. That's pretty damn good odds when the field's not fully stacked. I like it a lot.
I'm pretty sure that outside of Scotty Scheffler, no odds-on favorite has won a tournament yet this year. So that's
Shocking.
Interesting to note. I'm going to go, give me Max Homa plus 2,000, or Wyndham Clark, I think, can bounce back after he got injured after the Masters, plus 1,400. I like
Jeff,
those two guys.
We got a shocking development. I don't know if you see my phone right there, but
What's
I got
that?
Max Homa circled, Jeff. My 2
nice.
picks. I think it's our first golf pick where we're seeing exactly. Maybe this is it.
Maybe it is. Maybe Max Homa is the play.
Jeff, maybe I take the wife's car to a pawn shop here and, I tell them, give me a week. I don't know. That's not wise, Jeff. That's not funny to joke about. Nobody do that. But Max Homa, I wouldn't be shocked. You're going to need a lot of bat in the bag. I mean, it's 7,800 yard course. I mean, that's insane. That's like 2 courses for a regular golfer.
He can hit it.
He can hit it. I mean, you got to be able to pound it this week and, keep it out of the – I think they have rattlesnakes down there, Jeff, so that's something to think about as well. I mean,
who knows? We'll see. It's going to be fun. Next week, we'll be talking all about the PGA Championship and the second major of the year, which is going to be a lot of fun. And it's going to be, I think that's at Valhalla this year. So that's a fun course. So we'll see what that
fantastic.
Yeah. So what are your final thoughts here, Pez?
Well, I think with the basketball, Jeff, let's keep having fun with it. And we're going to keep monitoring injuries. I mean, I've got leans for tomorrow. I like Boston tomorrow, but I want to take a look at some things. And Oklahoma City is a tough one. We got to keep an eye on Doncic and see how healthy he is. But, I mean, the athleticism in Oklahoma City, I think, is going to be very difficult for anybody to beat. And they're a young team, but they've got guys, they're playing at a different speed right now.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Make sure you check out Pez's picks all over the place now. You can find
Everywhere.
us on the FFSN YouTube channel, but you can also get Pez's picks on Instagram, Twitter, or X. And now I think on TikTok, just by searching Pez's picks. He's the man with the picks. Man, thanks a lot, Pez. I appreciate your time. We'll talk next week. Take it easy.
See you.